Hi, everybody. Thank you very much. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr., and welcome to this classic movie review. This is my review of a classic movie from 1977, a true time capsule of a film, Saturday Night Fever, starring the great John Travolta in an Academy Award nominated performance, an iconic role of Tony Manero. This movie was directed by John Badham, who made many good movies himself. Movies like the 1979 Dracula, starring Frank Langella, Short Circuit from 1986. I believe he also directed 1983's Blue Thunder, uh, Point of No Return, starring Bridget Fonda, which was the La Femme Nikita remake, the American remake, the first one they did. And I believe he also directed Bird on a Wire, The Hard Way, Wesley Snipes' movie Drop Zone, and a 1995 movie that stars Johnny Depp and Christopher Walken, Nick of Time, a thriller that I think is very underrated in my opinion. But Saturday Night Fever is a great film. It's one of the greatest films of all time. There's a great story here, there are great performances, there are universal themes of troubled youth, and John Travolta is great in this role. This is a kind of star-making role, even though he'd been around already on TV. He was on Welcome Back, Kotter, and then he transitioned from that great funny sitcom to, of course, doing movies. He was in The Boy in the Plastic Bubble, of course, Grease. The following year is this, but yeah, that 1-2 combination of Saturday Night Fever and Grease really put him on the map back then. And this is one of those movies that you can watch over and over again. It has a great soundtrack. This came out at a time when um, disco was kind of dying, and when this movie came out, it pretty much put it back on the forefront, and kind of stuck around for a few more years because of this movie. But a lot of these styles, a lot of these looks are coming back. Even my own kids rocking the bell bottoms. This movie is such a classic that it's basically one iconic scene after another, and all of that begins right at the opening. The opening in itself is one of those memorable movie moments where you see John Travolta strutting down the street with his can of paint and picking up his platform shoes, comparing them to the ones that are in the window. Because, back then everybody was window shopping and buying stuff on layaway. So Tony Manero, our main character, played by the John Travolta, is basically just a grown ass kid who's still living at home. He works at this paint store, and he basically works just to blow all his money on the weekends to be like the big man at the club. And he's very popular at the disco. Everybody knows him. He's got all kinds of little groupies that want to dance around him, and he's like the man. He's like Mr. Popular. He's got his little crew of guys. He got Double J, Bobby C, Joey. Double J is the annoying one that likes to stick cigarettes up his nose. Uh, Bobby C is going through a kind of a crisis in this movie. He gets this girl pregnant, and he kind of is asking everybody for advice, and you can see that this guy is really kind of struggling through the movie to figure out what he's gonna do. Everything seems to be going pretty well for Travolta's character at first. At the paint store, the customers really like him, and he's the guy with the answers there. And at the disco, he's the guy with all the best moves, and he's got his entourage, and he's a real ladies' man, and he's the leader of his little circle over there. But then he goes home, and just like any other kid at home, he has to listen to his mom and his dad. And there's a great scene early in the film where he arrives late when he comes home for dinner, and his parents give him a hard time about being late, and um, he covers his shirt up because he doesn't want to get it dirty because he plans on going out later. And he says something that his dad doesn't like. It upsets his dad, and his dad smacks him on the back of the head just like a little kid. And he says one of the best lines in the world. He talks about how I work on my hair a long time, and you hit it. He hits my hair. Tony also has a couple of siblings. He has a younger sister that lives at home with them, and an older brother that doesn't, who happens to be a priest. And then pretty soon in the film, they find out that he's coming over for a visit. And when he does come over, it turns out he doesn't want to be a priest anymore. He's left the clergy. And this causes a huge problem in the household. And now all of a sudden, Tony doesn't feel like he's like the worst son in the world now. But their relationship is pretty interesting. You can see that Tony really respects and loves his brother very much, and vice versa. And the actor that plays his brother, I think, does a very good job in the movie as well. There's actually a great scene in the movie where Tony invites his older brother Frank Jr. to go to the club with them, the disco club, and check out his younger brother in action. And he sits with Double J and Bobby C and Joey as they, kind of sit down and just hang out. And off Travolta goes, Tony, and starts doing his thing. And it's really cool. You see that his brother really admires his younger brother's ability and his talent. And it's a great moment also because you get to really see a nice showcase of Tony's skills as a dancer. For those of you that like some bass in your music and you appreciate that disco sound, I think you're gonna really dig this soundtrack. And for those of you that do not appreciate the disco sound because you don't really care for disco at all, then I don't blame you because a lot of people don't. But even if you don't care for disco, one cannot deny that this movie has incredible dance sequences and dance choreography. And there are moments when you cannot take your eyes off of Travolta when he's moving on the screen, especially when he's doing some of the more fancier moves and some of the stuff that I could never pull off, especially some of that stuff that he does when everybody's surrounding him in a circle on the dance floor and they just kind of let him have a go at the entire floor and he just kind of takes over and he's just doing like one cool move after another, the kind of stuff that defies gravity. Tony's life takes a bit of a turn one night when he's at the club and somebody catches his eye on the dance floor. Actress Gorney as Stephanie Mandano, who is a very good dancer in her own right, and Tony sees this, and the next time he's there, he catches her and tries to meet her. And their first meeting doesn't go so well. She gives him some attitude. She's a bit standoffish. And later on, he tries again, and he tries again. He has an attraction for her, but she's very unsure about him because she's trying to get out of the neighborhood and she wants to do some things with her life, better herself. And she sees that he's just another kid that pretty much works for the weekend and blows all his money every weekend. And she feels like she's a little bit more matured than he is. So at first she tries to sort of give him the brush off, but he's persistent and he tries really hard to become her dance partner because there's an upcoming kind of a contest coming up, and he sees that she has moves and he knows he can dance, so he kind of proposes that they dance together. But he's also attracted to her, so that creates kind of an issue for the two of them. I've always liked actress Karen Gorney in the role of Stephanie. I've always felt that she did a great job in the role, and I've always thought she had an interesting kind of chemistry with Travolta's character in this movie because it's not the typical sort of male female dynamic that you get in a lot of these kinds of films where two people just fall in love and that's it, and for the rest of the movie you just see them sort of arm in arm and holding hands. They actually have this kind of tug and war kind of thing where it's like kind of will they or won't they, and it's not really the kind of thing where the movie hinges on that whole thing because it's really a movie about these people kind of growing. Ultimately, this is kind of a coming of age film. In this case, it's young people coming out of Bay Ridge, Brooklyn that want to get out of their situation and move on to better places and become better people. Very much like Stephanie Mandano in this movie. And the more time that Travolta's character spends with her, the more that she kind of rubs off on him a little bit. And then eventually he kind of wants to better himself. So his character ultimately does grow, but it takes a while for him to get there, especially with, like the goofballs that he hangs out with, like, Bobby C and Double J and Joey and everything. And, these are the kind of friends that they kind of have their routine every weekend, and so they do kind of drag him down. The scenes with Tony and his friends where they're just hanging out and they're being obnoxious and young and dumb, and they go to White Castle and they go to the bridge to hang out and scare this date of theirs, pretend like they're hanging off the side of the bridge like they're gonna fall and stuff. All that stuff is kind of relatable for me. I remember being young and going out with my friends, with my little group, going out cruising, and it's just cool to see that that kind of thing has been going on forever. People on their buds have been going out enjoying the nightlife as far back as even before the 70s, I'm sure. But I do enjoy those scenes, even though there are moments where they can be kind of crude. There is some language that they use in the movie that is pretty offensive. There's a great character arc with this film, and not to mention some of the best dancing choreography in any film. Great soundtrack, even if it is disco. A lot of great hits from the Bee Gees are in this movie, one after another. In the end, by the time it's all over, we've gone through this emotional journey with the main character of Tony Manero as he's gone from this young guy who works at this paint store to more of a man by the end of the film. And through it all, we hear some pretty funky music, we see some pretty cool dance scenes, and we get to experience a pretty awesome time in American history as far as time capsules goes. This movie is a time capsule for the late 70s, and if you ever want to relive this time, this period, just check out this movie. It's a fun time. Without question, this movie is a 4-star masterpiece, and I highly recommend anybody that enjoys a good drama check out Saturday Night Fever. This is a gem of a movie. This is a movie that I think can be found on Paramount Plus if you have Paramount Plus. But if you don't, and if you want to get yourself a hard copy, they're out there. Like I'm always saying, this is my copy of the Blu-ray. As you see, that is John Travolta there, front and center as Tony Manero in the classic white leisure suit, polyester suit probably. And yeah, this is a very famous pose and a very iconic poster. But Saturday Night Fever is a great film that I highly recommend you check out. Definitely. Thank you very much for watching this classic movie review. I very much appreciate you checking it out. If you're into this kind of thing, if you're into classic movies, hit that bell and subscribe. And if you want to comment, share, if you like the video, you can leave a like. I appreciate it. And please don't forget to look out for the next classic movie review. Everybody take care. God bless. And peace out.